What's up, gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the Blind Pig, courtesy of BGObsession.com. Happy to see you guys. The trifecta here. We're short two. Boone and Canadian Hog have found themselves on the injured list this week, but hope they feel better. We're happy, and we look forward to seeing them back next week.
Rub some dirt on it, John.
As long as it's not injured reserve. That's
no. This is a maintenance day for John, I guess, if you want to call it a vet day. But real quick, we'll go down the list. Top left is Bob. Heels and Neophyte. On the bottom is Mark. You can catch him as Ohm. And on the top right, I'm Derek. You can find me as Silent Threat. Jump on the board, mix it up, have some fun with us. We like to talk with rationality, of course. But anyways, speaking of rationality,
occasionally,
the Washington Post reported today that the team is all but sold, and Roger Goodell reported today that he has no idea that the team is selling. So I have no idea what the hell to listen to anymore. Just to put into that a little bit of perspective, Goodell came out today. I was quoted and asked if there was what did he say? Any expectation of the team selling, and he said it felt like a deflection to me. Let me see if I should have had this.
I was working on pulling. I think Pro Football Talks got it quoted on Twitter, and I was just digging for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a deflection. He basically said, I have no expectations of the team selling, which doesn't really answer the question, right?
Here's the exact quote. Does NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell expect Dan Snyder to sell the Commanders? Quote, I don't have any expectations on that. And then this is the part that I'm like, huh? Dan's statement that he put out is that he was exploring that. Okay, well, just because he's the one exploring that doesn't mean that you can't have an expectation of that, which is more of a reason why I just felt like he was towing the company line and just throwing out a non-quote quote. You know what I mean? That it's like, well, I didn't say I expected him to sell. Or Dan doesn't come back to him and say, why are you doing this in pub? Whatever. The ultimate deflection, in my opinion. But then, Mark, you said you read the article from WAPO, so I read about 3 paragraphs of it. What did the whole thing say?
The part that I posted on the board that Pro Football Talk, the end that Florio had, essentially encapsulates it. Most of the post article is rehash, but the first 3 paragraphs essentially said that the owners gathered today, and that according to the Washington Post, Bank of America has said that they will, quote, soon distribute what amounts to a prospectus for the team to qualified potential buyers who agree to confidentiality provisions. And it went on to cite 4 unnamed sources close to the situation who reiterated that it's unlikely to be a partial sale, that it's probably going to be a complete sale of the team. And they indicated that it seems to be coming fairly quickly and things are moving along. Which the only reason I went and read that, I'm not a big Florio guy all the time, but
oops. He'll either unfreeze her in a moment or he'll disappear.
I think Florio got him.
He's gonna laugh at that tomorrow when he listens.
Probably. But anyways, I will respond. Oh, he's coming in and out. Mark, we're losing you and we're getting you back. Anyways.
Oh yeah, so the I don't know how much of that you lost.
Florio got you. As soon as you said Florio, you cut out.
Yeah, the first time you said Florio, you said I'm not a big Pro Football Talk, but Florio, and you froze.
Well, if it goes out again, he hates Snyder as much as we do.
Yep.
and he has for a very long time. But I get the impression that mostly they were just talking about how the league, it seems to them, and I think I agree, the reason that Mr. Goodell would come out and say something like he did today was the league is just protecting itself. It's protecting the shield against anything that, these investigations, yada, yada. The last thing they want is more news before the Republicans take over the House and the committee goes away. I think he's just trying to wrap all that up in a neat bow, Goodell, and distance him, put his arm around Snyder publicly and all that. I didn't get the sense that it's made any real change in the expected sale of the team, which I know us and most anybody who's listening here, that's all we really care about at this point. And some justice for the women that were harassed and abused. I mean, I don't mean to ever just not say that out front. I hope that's implied.
Right. No, agreed. So in addition to Goodell being asked, did anybody else notice that one Mr. Irsay was given the opportunity to throw a damp blanket on the fire he started a couple of weeks ago, and rather than a damp blanket, he pulled out a can of lighter fluid and proceeded to stoke the fire completely. He was given the opportunity he was asked if his opinion of Mr. Snyder had changed in the last few weeks, and he basically said, nope, not at all.
Did I misread it, or did he also sort of make it seem like he gave himself a bit of an out, saying, yeah, we're still waiting to hear more information about the investigations and all that?
I did not see that, but then I didn't read the whole article. Like you guys just mentioned, I mean, I read like the first couple of paragraphs, and then my oldest called me for dinner, and so I like a good father got up and went and fixed a plate of her slaved over spaghetti, right?
So I get the impression that the net for today, between what Goodell had to say and what the Washington Post had to say, was that nothing's really changed. Although they did talk about, I'm sorry, go ahead, Derek.
The big trigger I had two major changes in today. I think one is the word prospectus. If not, I'm not mistaken, that's a freaking sales sheet. Like, you don't see a prospectus until you're putting it out there that this is what it's going to take to buy me, right? Like,
yes,
so
absolutely.
It is now, if they are in fact putting together there is going to be a document out there with the price tag that is a realistic understanding of the value of the team, which is further than we had gotten to this point. So I think that's one. The other thing is
number.
What?
We even have that number. Apparently, per rumors, insiders, the number that's basically outlined in the prospectus is 7 billion.
Which
that's the magic number at this point in time.
Which might seem asinine, but we can dig into in a minute. We can dig into why that 7 billion might ultimately end up being a bargain. But the other thing that jumped off the page at me about with the Washington Post article was, I believe in the third paragraph, it says that somebody made a comment that it wasn't that they didn't believe they wouldn't find a buyer that would be a minority owner, but more the inclination that the owners would not allow a minority owner, because majority or minority ownership has to be passed through the NFL owners the same way. They need 3/4 of a vote. So now we're at a point where the NFL owners can vote him out without voting him out, because he can come and they can block and deflect any potential minority owner, and it doesn't have to be 3/4 now. You don't need 21 votes to vote him out. You only need 10. You only need 7, or whatever 3/4 of 31 is, because there's not an owner in Green Bay or the representative. So what is that? 24? 24 would be 3/4. So you only need 9 guys to say, no, we're not okay with that minority owner. No, we're not okay with that minority owner. We're not okay with, and eventually Dan Snyder's going to run out of time and money to where he's not going to have a choice.
Does Green Bay not get a vote in things like this because they don't actually have an owner per se?
I think they do. I think they have a chairman. I think they do have like essentially a CEO.
I think they have their own internal system, and sending the card up at draft day. They talk about it and then they send their answer up.
I mean, they certainly have a stake in this, just like the other, 31 franchises do, right?
Right.
I find that interesting. But yeah, and I think you're absolutely right.
They've flipped the ability to vote him out from needing a 2/3 vote to say he's out to now only saying you only need 9 people to not agree to a minority owner. He's going to run out of money eventually.
No, if they want him out, they'll make it happen. I just don't think it's going to play out in public.
Yeah,
I think it's all going to happen behind closed doors. And I think despite the announce or the public statements that may have come out of the NFL today, that's not really what happened behind closed doors and is happening right now. So,
Yeah, I think what could happen behind closed doors, Mark, has probably already happened. Hence the reason we're looking at the whole, process that we're looking at. Hence the reason there's a prospectus at all. And 7 billion being the magic number, honestly, I think makes this something of a bargain.
It is. I agree.
it'll seem like one in 5 or 10 years.
Exactly. And all of the people with the money to do this look at things in increments of 5, 10, 15 years, right? They're not trying to, nobody's going to buy this team and try to turn a profit on it in a couple of years. That's
Yeah, they're not flipping franchises.
Right. No, exactly. Yeah. This isn't flip my house. This is, although, let's face it, this is kind of a fixer upper franchise, but I think that's part of the allure here, right?
Much.
You're not buying somebody, you're buying a stadium, but you're buying somebody else's problem that you already know needs to be replaced. Everybody's going into this with their eyes open. They know they've got to go find a new stadium. They know they've got to build a new stadium. Dude, if I had the money to buy this, that's actually a selling point to me.
And the lease expiration is only 4 years away. It's not like the lease expiration is 20 years from now.
Right. That's and so I've got 4 years to design a brand new state-of-the-art play toy. And if you're any kind of an architecture buff or a tech buff, you're staring at new stadiums in LA. You're looking at the stadium that Tottenham Hotspur just built in London, and you're looking at admittedly some of the interesting architecture going on in Qatar right now, as well as other places in the world. And you're thinking, man, I can do some cool things with this. And this is Washington, D.C. The world is going to see this, this stadium. Think of all the extra revenue opportunities if you build this thing right.
I would put the over under right now probably at about a dozen of plans that are already in existence with glossy computer renderings of what a new stadium.
Mark, oh my buddy, he's a struggle, man. Anyway,
Twice in one night.
To you, I do agree, Bob, and I think the allure is there because one, like you said, like you're talking about new stadium opportunity. If you build a stadium, state-of-the-art stadium, you build a 2025 stadium, 2026, 2027 stadium in Washington, D.C., instant concerts. We missed out on the World Cup because of the stadium. We could have been hosting a World Cup. Especially if you talk retractable roof, you can be talking NCAA tournaments. You can be talking major NCAA games, because let's be real, the ACC itself is playing it most of their games in Charlotte right now, which is not that far away from where we're at. You could easily throw your hat in the ring and say, I want to host. You know what I mean? Or Big Ten, because Maryland's up the street. There's a bunch of different things that instantly you're on the map when it comes to a venue to support and host primetime and major events. Like I hate to use this as even fuel, but it's true. Apparently Taylor Swift has decided not to come to the DC area because there's not an arena that will hold her with enough capacity, because she's not going to play at Cap One where there's only 18,000 people. She's not going to play at Jiffy Lube Live, or now it's no, it is Jiffy Lube. Used to be Nissan.
Yeah, used to be.
So but you put a 60,000 seat stadium in the shadow of Washington, D.C., people are going to want to be there. They're going to want to perform there, and TV is going to want to broadcast from there. So
honestly, one has to assume it's going to be bigger than 60,000 seats. I mean, Snyder backed all of these things off because he wasn't selling the season tickets. He didn't have the wait list. Just think about what the wait list for season tickets is going to do overnight when somebody else owns this club.
Yeah, they're instantly endeared simply because their name is not Dan Snyder.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm thinking 70. I think 70 seems to be the magic number now. That's what SoFi is. I think the days of the 90,000 seat stadiums are gone because big screen TVs have gotten too good and too cheap. But I think 70 is about right. Before I forget, and before my internet freezes up again and I get stuck looking like this frozen on your screen. One of the other things that they were talking about today was the whole idea, not based on anything other than there's then speculation that Snyder created this whole furor about selling the team in order to draw Jeff Bezos out so that he might then turn around and say Jeff Bezos, because he wants to buy my team, is the reason behind all of my problems, the reason behind the Washington Post investigative articles, etc.
That's a dangerous game of roulette to play, because Bezos ain't going to be the only one with deep pockets that's going to throw their hat in that ring and start going to Goodell and Jerry Jones and all of the NFL team. That would be a very dangerous game of cat and mouse, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it absolutely would, and I think Dan would be incredibly stupid to do it. The problem is we have enough history on Dan Snyder to know that he can be incredibly stupid at times and a vindictive little so-and-so, right? So sadly, I think that has to be considered, Mark.
Yeah, I think
Mark is just, at least this time he didn't get caught with his tongue out.
We're not gonna kick him off. I'm hoping whatever's going on can work itself out. That's kind of odd.
It is. Normally he like freezes once and that's it, but
tonight, at all. I'd love to hear his final point. What was that? What were you saying, Mark? You froze up again, buddy.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to work, boys. I don't know what's up with the internet here tonight, but I can't get it. Every time I start talking, it seems like it freezes up.
Well, then before we go any further, let's flip real quick, because I think we can literally take the podcast we had from 2 weeks ago and overwrite it onto this one and have a conversation about our upcoming opponent. But I do want to pose the question: what different to come out victorious instead of a tie or a loss against the Giants at home, which we're favored by 4.5, which kind of weirds me out a little bit, let's be honest. But
yeah. That'd be a favored thing.
What different, you know what I mean? How are we going to look at the game Sunday night different, like that we do differently to end up coming out ahead?
Well, do we know if Benjamin St. Juste is playing? That would be a big difference for me.
He suited up for practice today is what I read earlier. And you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, getting our number one cornerback back makes a huge difference to this defense, I think. So
the other thing I'd like to think is different on the defensive side, let's face it, wasn't really our problem. I mean, the defense gave up 20 points. You should be able to win with that against an okay team like the Giants. But the other difference is we now have had Jack Del Rio has had film to show his guys up front for the last, what's today? It's the last 10 days of Daniel Jones breaking contain when we didn't stay in our lanes and we didn't track him down, and he killed us with 3 or 4 first down runs that were just inexcusable given that's really the only weapon they had. I'd like to think that we'll see a little less of Dan Jones traipsing through the secondary this time.
I think we're going to riff on a theme here, right? I think we're probably going to see Chase Young play a few reps, which could be very interesting. And it could be an emotional lift for the team a little bit, right? To get him back. He's a bigger than life character and well liked. I mean, regardless of what we may think about what he was doing performance wise when he got injured, his teammates seem to really like him and enjoy playing with him. And I think that, we could see a little something there. The other person is Wes Schweitzer. Will be playing at center apparently. And getting him back is not a bad thing either. We had to switch. We lost Larson in the middle of the game last time. And so we were kind of juggling things. A more solid offensive line may give Taylor just a little more time back there. And as much as I think that's the most he's been sacked this season, right? They got to him 5 times.
Yep.
I think that's the most he's been sacked, probably the most he's been knocked down all season long. And that's even with his wheels. So
yeah, the OL kind of looked like preseason in the first few weeks in the second half against the Giants. He was under siege, which is probably the strongest point yet, Bob. I couldn't agree more. If the offensive line, and we have limitations at quarterback anyway, to take away time and have him sort of on the run and under siege is not a good, 3rd and 13 is not a good situation for this offense.
It's almost an impossible one. 2nd and 13 is almost an impossible one. There were a couple plays in this game against the Giants where you looked at Heineke making a play and you were like, where's that? We talked about it when he was rolling left and he threw across the body down the field on 3rd or 4th down to hit Samuel or somebody. And, where's more of the plays like Jahan Dodson? I think we need to see more of that. Get the ball in the playmaker's hands fast. Scheme up the system to get them in space. Scott Turner, I really wish he would burn his playbook and just go spent the entire bye week watching the offensive of the 49ers. Because they're so similar in their abilities and maybe we don't have Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, but we got a couple guys that can effectively play those roles. Maybe not to that level, but can still be effective in those roles in Gibson and Curtis Samuel. So I hope to God we can find a way. I think we need to come out hot and hard and early. I mean, we need to see Houston again. You know what I mean? Like, if this game comes down to a 1-possession score in the 4th quarter, it's going to be another one of those anxiety-driven, nail-biting, oh my God, hold on for dear life games.
All right. Can I be devil's advocate?
Sure, go for it.
This is what we do.
That's
what this team is. And the reason that they won at the games they did was because they have a formula. They know they have a defense that's good enough to hold teams to 17 to 20 points a game. And they can't afford to turn their playground type quarterback loose. Because for every one of those great plays he makes, like that 4th down play, he threw 2 out of the next 3, sort of lobbed them late into traffic, and it could easily have gone the other way. I think Scott's got a really tough job because I agree. I would love to see us be able to open things up, but I'm not sure that he trusts his quarterback enough to do that. I think part of the whole formula that they have that they know works or has worked so far with him is limit his offensive mistakes, run the ball, get the time of possession, and try to break an occasional play like we did with Jahan. I just don't think there's any other gear that he can shift into with this particular quarterback, with particularly with the OL like it might be this week.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think they will probably play it the same way. I would like to see him do a couple of different things. Turner, I mean, I don't anticipate it happening. I would love to actually see him use Heineke's feet inside the 20. I think if we actually did a designed controlled scramble, right, or roll out, naked bootleg, whatever you want to, whatever play floats your boat, with him inside the 20, I think we could fix this scoring problem of not being able to get over 21 points. I would love to see us put up 28 to 32 this weekend. I don't know whether that happens or not, obviously. I'm probably not even willing to say that in my prediction. I haven't decided what I'm going to say yet, but I would love to see, them use Heineke as a runner just a couple of times. Doesn't have to be, a dozen times a game the way Jalen Hurts runs the football, or even Daniel Jones runs the football. Just 2-3 designed runs in the red zone, I think could make a massive difference. Make the defense start paying attention to more than just our receiver core in a compressed field.
Could not agree more. That's a weapon that we choose not to deploy week after week after week. We know Tyler's at his most dangerous when he is running and making things happen, and he's just, for whatever reason, they haven't done it, and I don't understand it either, Bob. It seems like we're really missing the boat on that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we're at the point in the season now where they need to stop worrying about what's going to happen, because you don't want to let Taylor, you have to protect Taylor from himself, and you're worried about an injury.
Well, they've got Wentz back.
Right.
So it's not like we're staring at the necessity to start a 5th-round rookie draft pick if Taylor gets hurt. Now Wentz is back. They can play a little loose with this if they want to.
And I hope that they realize that. And I hope they go to Taylor and say, all right, Taylor, the leash is longer, buddy. Go out there, be smart, be calculated, but make some plays. And it's not just YOLO balls. It's not just, a 3rd down punt, an arm punt. You know what I mean? Where it's go ahead and take off and get the sideline. Go ahead and do those kind of things and play call differently. So I feel the same way again about this game that I felt about the game against the Giants, about the game against the not the Giants, the Falcons, the game against the Colts. It's another one of those games where we have every reason to believe that we can win. But how many times have we seen us come up short? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
But prime time, Rivera has this team playing differently in prime time. Big stage, when the team is seemingly back against the wall and they have to win a game, Rivera somehow finds a way to win these football games. So I'll try to give him the benefit of the doubt, but Jesus, I'm going to be anxious for the next 4 days. I can tell you that.
I think at least two of the 3 biggest wins that he's had here were when we beat Brady last year, when we beat the Steelers
2 years ago, COVID year,
2 years ago on the road on a night game, and then beating the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Those were all, wasn't the Eagles game in prime time also?
Yeah, it was Monday night.
So yeah, that we can't really complain about that curse anymore. Ron gets his team ready to play.
Right.
I was thinking about this earlier today. This is essentially our first playoff game, right? I mean, it's not quite an elimination game mathematically, but you don't win this one, you're probably not getting in the playoffs.
If you don't win this one, you have to hope Seattle catches San Fran, and then you got to beat San Fran.
Right. I mean, it's you're then waiting for everybody else, and more importantly to me at least, they've shown that they're not a playoff team. This is the easiest playoff game they're going to get in 2022.
And if you think about it, you win if you beat the Giants, you have 3 games left, and you have a 2-game lead on the 4th wildcard team, because you have a 1-game lead on them in the standings and the tiebreaker.
And you've shown that you can beat another marginal playoff team when you have to. And that's what the Giants are. They're exactly like us. They're a marginal wild card wannabe, as are we. This is a playoff game. I hope they leave it all out there as such.
We need to come out Sunday night and play mistake-free football the way we did in prime time against Philadelphia. And just positively, I mean, you said it to start this segment, Mark. We've had 2 weeks to do nothing but watch film from the last game. The defense now should have a really good idea of what they're facing, and we need to just come out and take away everything that makes New York tick. And I think we can do that, because this isn't a team with a stupid number of weapons. Right? You stop Daniel Jones running, you stop Barkley from running, and you pretty much stop the Giants. You're going to give up a pass play here and there. There's no doubt about that. It's not like we're going to hold them to no first downs and 3 yards in the first half the way we did Houston. I don't think anybody expects that. But if we can put up the same defensive numbers against New York that we put up against Philadelphia in the first half, we should be in pretty good shape by halftime.
It's too bad we're playing at home. We have a better road record than we do home record.
Notice that. It's kind of crazy. Of course, do we really have a home anymore?
No.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, all right. Well, I say that, but a big part of the whole teams don't play as well on the road as they do at home is the fact that you've got all the travel that goes into it. And, I don't care how nice the jet you're on is. It's tiring to fly across the country. And sleep in a hotel bed. God knows what you end up with, even in a really nice hotel. I've had some pretty crappy beds in nice hotels. Guys don't get a good night's sleep. They're eating food on the road instead of what they're used to. There's something to be said for home cooking, as it were. Even if the fans in attendance are split down the middle between your team and the other team, you probably got a good night's sleep. Everything
you woke up, got to see your family.
Yeah, exactly. Your family's there. Everything's where you expect it to be. You know, I think there's just a comfort level in not having to travel. And so I think there's a lot to that. But yet, for whatever reason, we're better away from the not so friendly confines of FedEx Field.
No, it's not much of a difference, right? We're 4-2 on the road and 3-3 or something like that at home.
Yeah.
One of those, I guess, is a tie. Taylor Heineke in 3 starts is undefeated against the New York Football Giants.
And I believe that we have beat them 5 in a row, right?
He is, yeah, he is 2-0-1 against them.
Well, I think the more correct statement is we haven't lost to them in 5 games, because you can't count that tie as a win. And Taylor would tell you that it felt like a loss.
No, I said I didn't say he had won. I said he was undefeated.
Right, undefeated, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I out of curiosity, I pulled up his stats in his 3 starts against the Giants. He's only, his average is, let's see. Yeah, this is the average game for him against the Giants. 23 out of 35, 66%, 244 yards, 1.3 touchdowns, and 0.3 interceptions with the rating of 95.4. So he's actually, the first and third game, he played pretty well against them and put up some of his bigger numbers. He actually threw for 336 yards against them in 2021. And I did not do this today like I was going to. I was going to look up how many 300-yard games Taylor Heineke has as a starter in the NFL. It ain't many.
No. Well, I mean, what? He's got 28 starts or something. I mean, all total.
He lives in the mid 200s generally.
Yeah, I'll bet he doesn't have 300-yard games.
I'd also like to look up how many 3 touchdown pass games he's had. I'm not sure he's had any. I think he's had 2 a bunch of times.
Who, Taylor?
Yeah, and I apologize. I meant to research that earlier, but I have a job.
No, oh my gosh. 3. Did he have 3 against? Who did we blow out? Was it Tampa?
Oh, that game last year. Yeah, but we still relied heavily on Gibson. I don't know. That was a very big Gibson game. You're talking about Tampa Bay.
Hold on,
last
I got
year,
Pro
right?
Football Reference up.
Yeah, but the way my
He obviously has not had one in 2022.
No.
Hell,
he's had a couple of games. He was lucky to hit 150, much less double that up and go for 300.
Oh, come on. You're not going to give me the 2023 stats? Hold on. Now I got to find it. Now you got me thinking about that. No, I think he had a 3 touchdown game. And now I can't remember when it was.
Okay, that would be the exception that proved the rule, right?
Correct. It is not. Yeah.
It's not what he does. He's not going to come out and throw it for 386 and 4 touchdowns.
He had 2 3-touchdown games last year. One against Atlanta, one against Carolina.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah, but in the game against Carolina, 16 for 22 for 206 and 3 touchdowns. So it was not exactly, an air raid offense.
No, but I guess what that sounds like is he did pretty well in the red zone that day.
Yeah, I think was that the Logan Thomas catching the back of the end zone and he elevated and he was
when he elevated. Yeah. I think
Like-
you're right. I think you're right. So it looks like the same. It looks like a wash, rinse, and repeat of 2 weeks ago with all we really need improvement on. I think we covered it. Get a little bit better pass protection from the OL.
Mm-hmm.
We eliminate the stupid penalties. We shot ourselves in the foot a lot in that game, brought back some good plays.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of penalties. They just came at really lousy.
They came at awful times. And
Timing is horrible.
Yeah, and we hadn't really been doing that in the good stretch.
Right.
But it's
We
funny when you
stayed in
think
front of the
about it.
sticks.
When we went into the season, we talked about how since the schedule was so much easier and we weren't going up against Mahomes and Herbert and Josh Allen and all those guys this year, we were going up against Daniel Jones's and an old and what's his name? David Sims, David Mills, and we haven't been facing Murderers Row. which is why we've been able to hold teams to 20 points or so. But we cannot get into a shootout with somebody. You know, I figure if we're behind by 14 in a third quarter, we're in big trouble.
You're probably correct. So one of the other things that kind of stuck out to me in the game 2 weeks ago that I really didn't talk about when we had the pod last week, but I think maybe a key for this week, and it's I know the second touchdown came from outside the red zone. I'm fairly certain the first touchdown came from outside the red zone, or pretty close to like the back edge of the. What was Terry's touchdown catch? 21 yards or 17 yards, something like that.
It was, yeah, right. It was red zone.
It was red, but just barely red zone.
Yeah,
and
it wasn't
then
inside the
Dotson's-
10, and we really struggle inside the 10.
Right. And then Dotson's was actually like a 28-yard reception. So we were nearly 30 yards out of the end zone. So 10 yards out of the red zone.
Yep.
You know, and Taylor does well with those throws, and we have the athletes to quote unquote make a move, right?
Well, that was going to be what I said. Those
Mhm.
throws were not from the 25 into the end zone. Those
No.
were throws that were get your guy the ball and let them do something with it.
Right. And you know, between Samuel and Dotson and McLaurin and Gibson, we've got guys that can make somebody miss in the open field. Make several somebody's miss if you're Mr. Dotson. I mean, what I think half the New York defense had a shot at him on that touchdown.
That
And-
was sweet.
Wasn't it though? He just made them all look like school kids. So I feel like we need to be thinking about end zone from a little deeper in the field.
Yeah, I can work with that. We were talking last week about why we didn't go tempo more, because we did so well in the opening sequence with that. And it seems like we have pretty good luck with it at the end of halves and at the end of games too. The only reason I can figure that Turner doesn't like to run it in game is the whole idea that we're trying to let the air out of the football and have these slow, methodical games where we're, you know, just going time of possession and all that. And the last thing he wants to do is take a risk on going up tempo and putting the defense back on the field 45 seconds later. That's the only thing that makes any sense to me.
Yeah,
Because
but
we really don't use tempo.
that doesn't make sense to me because his defense has proven that even after a turnover or a short field or whatever, it can stand up enough. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. I'm just
I know.
grasping at straws to try to understand why it's something that seems so effective when we have used it, and we just haven't.
But you know what? I mean, there's even a way to get around that. You can run the up tempo part of the game and then extend your time at the line of scrimmage. There's no reason you have to walk right up and snap the ball. The big thing is you're keeping their defense on the field. You want a package of players in the offense that gives you a lot of different options, and then you don't want to substitute, because if you don't sub, it makes it really hard for the other team to sub.
Well, they can't. Well, right. They won't sub because you could snap it while they're in the middle of it.
Exactly. Right. And if you call the play basically at the line of scrimmage, you know, and they try and sub, exactly, Derek, you're snapping the ball on them, and now you're forcing the defense to play in whatever they're stuck in. And I mean, good grief, man, with Gibson and Samuels out there on the field together, we've got all kinds of different options. We could play a 2-back set with those guys on the field together, turn right around and go empty backfield, and now you've got a linebacker playing Gibson out there somewhere. I'm with you, Mark. I would love to see more of that in game. Doesn't even have to be for a whole drive. Do it for 5 plays.
Mix it up more. Yeah. Just
Yeah, do it for 5 plays and then come to a screeching halt. Just
Yes.
and then you know what I mean? Just throw off the rhythm of the defense as much as you try to gain the rhythm of the offense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would just love to see the whole, you know, all right, we're going to come out, we're going to do 3 regular snaps, and then we're going to play 3 snaps at tempo, and then we're going to do 3 regular snaps. And the next drive we may do 2, 6, and 4, you know, whatever. But we're gonna mix things up. And
So I just ran down the highlight. The Terry McLaurin touchdown was 19 yards. The ball was snapped The line of scrimmage was literally as close to the 20 it can be before it's a 20 on the 20. It's like 19 3/4.
See, we do much better at that. That distance feels comfortable for Taylor for whatever reason. The field, the area the defense has to cover isn't so compressed.
Yep.
That there's a ridiculous amount of traffic, and he can find an open guy.
Yeah, but he didn't even like the throw had nothing to do with the touchdown. They snapped the ball. He steps up to evade the blitz or the rush. The tackles do a perfect job of just carrying the defenders outside. He off balance flips it to McLaurin on a crosser. So the line of scrimmage is at the 19. Terry McLaurin catches the ball at the 16. You know what like it's literally the ball is 3 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. He makes one guy miss, he walks in the end zone. There's
And
nobody
the pass, I have to say it, the pass was behind Terry. He turns and makes a great play.
But that's my point, is that it wasn't even Taylor being comfortable. He had nothing. He had very little to do with that play.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the great tackling machine that is Fabian Moreau got an assist on that touchdown.
All right. Well, I guess we can jump into it. What do you guys think is actually going to happen? I think we know what we need to do. I think we need to, if we eliminate if we eliminate the mistakes, we win the last game. And I know that's hyperbolic and that seems stupid because no, it's a tie. If you don't make a mistake, you're good. But I legitimately believe that we did more to win the game and we were the better team. Despite the fact that we were only good for basically 2.5 drives. The Giants were bad for 14. So eliminate the mistakes. I think we come away. But what do you think actually does happen?
Go ahead, Bob. Tell me what I can see it. I can see it on your face.
You can see what I think we win this game. And I think it's not as comfortable as this score sounds, but I'm thinking something like 23-17. I can't imagine us not kicking a field goal. For whatever reason, games with the New York Giants just involve field goal kickers on both sides. For whatever reason, it is just a way of life with these two teams. In fact, so I see, 2 scores and the defense makes a game-winning stop while New York's trying to get a tying score.
I'm pretty close to you. I have convinced myself this week that the Washington Commanders will score 3 touchdowns, which is a leap for me. One of them might be defensive or special teams.
God, I was thinking that and decided not to say it.
I just have a funny feeling that we're going to explode for like 26 points, which would be the highest we've had in a while. I think Taylor is going to run a little bit more because I think he probably can hear the clock ticking a little bit. 4 games left. Wentz is back. He's playing for a contract somewhere now, here or somewhere else, because his contract's up. I think he's auditioning. I think he's going to let it fly a little bit. God help us, for better or for worse. I do think that Jack Del Rio will have pounded it into the defenders' heads all week that you, for God's sakes, make him throw the ball. Don't let him get out and run. And this is year 3 for Ron Rivera, and it's for me his first playoff game here. I'm really thinking that this feels like a playoff game to me in terms of the ramifications. If they don't win, I think the season's basically over. If they do, I think it sort of changes the whole perception. I think that's what he's selling all week, and I'm gonna buy it because he's surprised me a couple of times in big games now where the team didn't collapse like I expected it to. So he's got me on board for this one, and I'm hoping he has the team on board. So I'm going 26-20, and I think the Giants may even get a score, in sort of in garbage time. I think 26-20, and we feel pretty good about it at the end of the night.
Hard to argue. Logically speaking, we should win the game. Everything. Now that doesn't mean dominate. That just means that logically, I think we should win, similar to a couple of the other games that we read close. it's a division game, but we got to spend a week off, you know, hanging out and eating our home cooking, and all the Giants did was go up and get their doors completely blown off by the Eagles. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm looking at the injury report, and Barkley's not on it, but I believe he came up nicked up out of that game. If
Yeah, I
I'm not
thought he did
mistaken.
too.
So
Their
that might
injury-
just be a
Their
little
injury report's long. And there's
posturing.
a lot of big names on there that did not practice, have not practiced yet this week.
Right. Adoree Jackson is big. Dexter Lawrence, it says it's a rest day, but still.
Yep.
Same thing with Julian Love. Julian Love's the guy that I want to say he tortured us last week. But then Leonard Williams was limited for neck. So, I mean, if Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence aren't 100%, I mean, we should feast on their interior D line. Those guys are the anchors. I think you guys are right. I think it's a close game. I think we find a way to win it on the heels of our defense. In a perfect world, we come out hot and hard and we make a statement. This should be a statement game. You know, there is no time to play harder than this, right? This season, this is the most important game. So if you have any problem getting up for this game, the door's there. Don't let it hit you as you're on your way out, because if they show up flat to this game, it's a major problem. So I think it's going to be close. Just to deviate, so I don't steal your exact score, I'm gonna go 24-21. A late, weird, funky 2-point conversion by the Giants brings it to a 1-possession game. We end up winning.
So none of you picked up on my math. I did this on purpose because I'm thinking of our missing brother Boone tonight.
Uh-oh.
Said we were going to have 3 touchdowns, and I came up with 26 as my total because I think Joey Sly misses an extra
point. Yeah, well, hard to bet against that at this point.
Oh, John's gonna laugh when he hears this.
Yeah, or throw up. One of those.
Well, you know, he may be doing that already anyway.
Yeah, according to what he was saying earlier, he might be puking now.
Oh, you know, this is a game. This is a game 2 weeks ago was a game we should, or 10 days ago was a game we should have won. And I part of the reason I feel the way I feel is I have a tremendous amount of faith in John Allen, Terry McLaurin, Taylor Heineke, Daron Payne to be in everybody's ear going, we should have won that game. This doesn't feel good. You know? I mean, I listened to Daron Payne several weeks ago when he came out and said, hey, you know, we won this game, but we all know we made mistakes. We all know we did some things wrong. Well, now we all did some things wrong and we tied. We didn't get away with one. So
yeah, I think there was a large level of disappointment on that flight home. And I hope all 53 of them felt it, you know, selfishly speaking, because that was an opportunity for us to take this wild card spot and be comfortable ish for the next 4 weeks, and they missed it.
If they'd won that game and then the Giants get plastered this last week the way they did with
It's
Philadelphia,
over. We're basically locked in.
Yeah, you know, that makes these 2 weeks comfortable relaxation for the team, not because you just got to feel good about things, and there's no way going into the bye they felt good about things. At least I hope they didn't. I wouldn't have if I'd been on help. I didn't feel good about things going into the bye, and I'm not even one of the team.
Did I get my facts right? Is Ron really not very good coming out of bye weeks?
If I'm not mistaken, last year out of the bye was against Tampa when we blew their doors off.
That's good to hear. I
Am I right?
I must have misheard that. I'm not sure. I didn't feel like going to dig, but no, I mean, let's face it. If in year 3, if the team is on the right trajectory, this is when we see it. You know, these are the kind of games where you show that you belong in the conversation as a playoff team.
Last year, bye week, yes, we played Tampa. We won 29-19.
Okay.
And then in 2020, I think the bye week got jacked up. The 2020, we came out of the bye week and we lost to the Giants.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what Ron's overall record is, but in 2019, a Carolina paper reported that he was 5-4 in games before bye weeks and 4-4 coming out of the bye.
All right. So that sounds like a 500 kind of team.
Well, and what? So Derek said he lost in 20 coming out of the bye,
And he
we won
in
last year
21.
coming out of the bye. So now he's 5-5 coming out of the bye. You're right. Yeah, 500, Mark. You're exactly on the money.
Well, I don't know that anybody's ever had to go into a bye and come out of a bye with the same opponent. There's no freaking excuse
I've never
not
heard of that before. No.
to not be ready for this. And just before we sign off, just something to look at. Brock Purdy showed up on the injury report for tomorrow's game.
Saw that.
Did he really?
Yep, a hip and an ankle, if I'm not mistaken. Right? I threw it in the random
Yeah,
commander.
but all right, what was he listed as? Questionable, doubtful, questionable.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we kind of want Seattle to lose again?
Yes.
Wouldn't we rather San Francisco win this game with an injured quarterback? And
Yeah, San Francisco is more than likely going to win that division. They've got the better record and a little bit of an easier run in.
Here, I'll play. So I actually looked at it earlier. Where did that?
because I'd rather play an injured. Sorry, Brock. I'd rather not play a healthy quarterback when we play him in 2 weeks. But this week, I'd really like to see them beat the Seattle.
Well, and I don't want to jinx anything, but the way things are going at the moment, we could actually be looking at a home playoff game, wild card weekend, if we win enough games and teams like Seattle lose enough games. We could, because that's. Oh no, we can't either.
So here's the deal: the San Fran is 9-4. Seattle is 7-6. So if San Fran beats Seattle tomorrow, they fall to 7-7, and San Fran goes to 10-4. If we were to win against the Giants, we go to 8-5-1, essentially giving us a 1.5 game lead on Seattle with 3 to go, and the tiebreaker against the Giants.
Yep.
So then the thought process is if you win one more game in the final 3, you're in, because the Giants would have to make up 2 and the Seahawks would have to make up 2.5.
Yep.
And
the Lions would have to win out.
And I still don't think they could catch us, because if we win 2 more games, including against the Giants, we would end up at 9-6-1. If they win out, they end up at 9-7-0. So we still have a half a game on them. No, 10-7-0. I'm wrong. So they would have a half a game on us. You're right. So I guess the thought process is, if Seattle finds a way to beat San Francisco, then we have to beat San Fran, because chances are we're going to have to come down to a tiebreaker with them or the Giants in the playoffs. I think the Cowboys are pretty much locked in at 10-3. Unless they
I agree with that. I would agree with that. Which means we probably won't get a home playoff game, because because Dallas will be the top wild card spot in the NFL. We'll be one of the bottom 3. I think the best
we can end up is a 6, which is what we're at currently.
All right. Well, I will hold my nose and root for San Fran on Thursday. It's Thursday night, right?
Tomorrow
night.
So if San Fran can find a way to win, go to 10-4, Seattle drops to 7-7. We play San Fran. So even if we were to lose to them and Seattle, if we beat the Giants, even if we were to lose to the Niners the following week, no matter what the Giants or the Seahawks do, they can't catch us next weekend.
Well, the real key to all of this is we need to win Sunday night. Biggest game of Ron Rivera's Washington tenure coming up this weekend.
Yep.
So the best we can do is 6. All right.
You think it's bigger than Tampa?
I was thinking we could end up playing the Cowboys on wild card weekend, and I'm like, Boy, that'd be lousy. It'd be the Cowboys 2 weeks in a row.
We can't play the Cowboys.
No, we can't. We can't. That's what I was just sitting here trying to figure out, and we can't. We'd go to one of the divisional winners.
If we ended up 6, we would play San Fran.
Who might be stumbling in with the great story in Brock Purdy, who until I see otherwise is still Mr. Irrelevant, who had a really nice first game. Now there's some film on him. We'll see.
That also depends on what happens with Minnesota, because San Francisco is only a game behind Minnesota right now.
Right.
So they could catch and pass Minnesota. So
Minnesota, who surprisingly dropped a game to the Detroit Lions this last week.
Mm-hmm.
All right, raise your hand if you laughed about Kurt with that one. I couldn't help myself. I just that came across the wire, and I kind of grinned to myself, and I thought, yeah, there you go, Mr. Cousins.
Hey, Detroit, man, you don't want to play them right now. They're playing without fear, and they're playing good offensive football.
Well, and you definitely don't want to play them in Detroit. They've got a definite home field advantage, but they're not quite so formidable on the road if you look at their record. But man, nobody wants to go to Ford Field right now.
Nope.
Dan Campbell's got them believing.
So Niners remaining schedule. Seahawks tomorrow, then host the Commanders on Christmas Eve, then the Raiders, and then they host the Cardinals. If San Francisco doesn't go 3-1 in that stretch, I'll be shocked.
Right.
As far as the Vikings go, they play Saturday at 1. They're hosting the Colts. Then they play the Giants on Christmas Eve. Then they go to the Packers on New Year's Day, and then they finish at the Bears. If they don't go 3-1, I'll be shocked.
They should. They and potentially 4-0 over that stretch.
Both of those teams could and should realistically go 4-0. I think the 49ers just have a bigger hill to climb because they're on their 4th. They could be on their 4th freaking quarterback this season. And if Shanahan wins 12 games with 4th on his 4th string quarterback, the guy deserves Coach of the Year. I don't give a shit what anybody says.
I can't argue with that.
He'd have earned it. He'd have earned it.
Of all the guys that got away, as much as I hate to say this, Kyle Shanahan is the one I rue the most, I think. He's the most like Gibbs in terms of coaching to the players he's got, as opposed to coaching to a scheme he's in love with.
Elite at it.
He is. He's elite at it. Exactly. I mean, and we lived through the season of it with Robert Griffin, right? And he's done nothing but enhance that reputation since he left Washington. He was brilliant at it with Atlanta, and he's been great at it in San Francisco. And he seems to be a player's coach. The San Francisco players really seem to like him, and
he gets his team plays hard. They don't mail it in out there. I mean, I haven't watched all of their games, but I've seen them play enough where, I mean, they play with their hair on fire every week, and they don't make a whole lot of mistakes.
No,
I got a lot of respect for what he's doing out there.
I mean, which is not to say that I don't love McVay as well, right? And McVay's had some challenges that Shanahan hasn't had. McVay's success has caused excessive turnover in his coaching staff pretty much every year for the last 3. He loses guys. He loses guys faster than McLaurin loses guys, and that's saying something. And this year he's had a boatload of injuries, but you look right up the coast to Kyle Shanahan, and he has a boatload of injuries every year. And the 49ers are right there every year. 3 quarterbacks deep now, maybe 4 quarterbacks deep tomorrow, and anybody picking San Francisco to lose outright tomorrow night?
You play defense like they do, you're going to be in just about every game.
Well, and run the ball like they do.
Yeah.
I mean, he can let the air out of the ball just as well as we're doing right now. And I don't know.
That.
So just to put a bow on it, the Giants remaining schedule, obviously Sunday at the Commanders. Christmas Eve, they play at the Vikings. Then they host the Colts, and they finish the season at Philly. Chances are Philly has nothing to play for in that game. They have probably locked up the 1 seed easily. And then our remaining schedule, we host the Giants, play at San Fran, then we host the Browns, and then we host the Cowboys. So we do have 3 of the next 4 at home, which I didn't realize until today, which was kind of weird to finish out the season. 3 of our last 4 and 5 of our last 6 at home, or sorry, 4 of our last 6 at home.
Damn
It's
you,
kinda cool.
schedule makers.
Yeah,
And
I cannot get mad at the schedule makers this year. I've had that gripe in the past.
yeah.
I don't think we can get upset with the schedule makers at all this season.
But you know, the Cowboys may have nothing to play for the last weekend other than pride against Washington. And they may be resting guys to keep them from getting hurt because
They've already
Jerry
locked up
Jones
number 5.
Yep, Jerry is hurting from going out of the playoffs game 1 for how many of the last X number of years? I mean, how long has it been since they played a second playoff game? Prescott's hurting over that. So there may be a bunch of guys on the bench when we play the Cowboys in an effort to, you know, rest them and get them completely well so that they can try and get out of the wild card round for a change.
I'm looking for those 2 wins. The one I've been thinking this for a while now. Got to win Sunday against the Giants, and the other one is the Browns game. That's one that I've been watching Deshaun. I've watched every play he's had since he's been back, and he ain't there yet.
No.
2 more weeks, he'll be better, but he's still not the Deshaun that he was 2 years ago.
And I don't think we will see the Deshaun Watson we're used to.
Not in
this
22.
season. Not in 22. I don't think we will. And the Browns look like a better football team with Bissett under center than they do with Watson under center. I was more worried about them 3 weeks ago. Of course, 3 weeks ago, I was thinking, well, you know, they get Deshaun Watson back and they're going to be unstoppable. And then Deshaun Watson came in and couldn't hit the broadside of a barn door with a ball. And
he's not quick. He looks heavier and he looks slower. I kept watching for signs of that elusive.
The Flash.
Yeah, he always seemed to be playing faster than everybody, and he ain't right now. So
no, and
I think we got to have that one.
I don't know if that's football shape or he's 2 years older.
Rust.
Both.
You know,
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and it's going to be very interesting to see if the Browns have paid for a guy that after 2 years off in the prime of his career will never be the same quarterback again. And if they've done that, Cleveland has hamstrung themselves for a decade.
Yep.
Because of the finances involved in that contract.
Yep.
They aren't going to be able to pay any of their young talent when they hit that 5-year mark, or 4-year mark, depending upon where they were drafted. That's a fascinating case study in Cleveland. We could probably do a whole pod on that alone. But
so tonight, let's see, John and Paul get better. Gentlemen, we missed you. 2, Goodell is still a mealy-mouthed, rich son of a bitch who always says what he needs to say to protect himself in the shield. 3, the Washington Post still says that we're selling the team.
Somebody
4,
just
got a
sorry, not
Giants
to
game that we gotta
hijack
win
you.
Sunday
Somebody
night.
just tweeted this. Goodell said that they cooperated fully with the House Oversight Committee, though the House Oversight Committee came out and said that wasn't the case a month ago. So it's more poofling in walls hitting and stomping around like a child is going to continue to go on. Not to hijack your point, Mark. Sorry.
No, it's all good. All of that congressional stuff goes away on January 1, right? So then it's just all about selling the team.
Maybe because I don't know.
The Republicans are not, they're going to disband that committee so fast it's going to make your head spin.
Yeah, the Republicans will disband that committee, but the damage is already done on multiple fronts, right? I mean, the committee's released its findings, and the Republicans shot themselves in the foot by circulating a report that included photos of women that shouldn't have been there.
The photos.
Yeah, but nothing comes from that report now.
No.
But
I don't think honestly, I don't ever think anything was going to come from that report.
Yeah.
All that report was just another piece of straw on the camel's back that was another public embarrassment of the team. I don't think there was ever going to be anything that the House Oversight Committee was ever going to be able to actually do other than the law they just passed, and they actually named Dan Snyder and the team in the law.
Yeah.
But as
Well,
far as the
not just
sale
an
of the team,
embarrassment of the
I don't think
team.
it was all about more spotlights. It was never about actual action.
Well, and
And
those will continue to shine, right? You still
Yeah.
got the ticket investigations going on, and you know
But
that
we
the
still have
drip
two
drip is never.
jurisdictions that haven't responded about their own investigations in Virginia and DC. And yeah, the guy, I don't see how he doesn't sell. But not to circle back to the
Well, and
beginning.
Mr. Bezos agrees.
well, and I mean, I keep coming back to now we kind of have confirmation that the number is 7 billion. And I cannot see a savvy business guy looking at this and going, yeah, it looks a little broken down at the moment, but 7 billion is cheap for a former marquee franchise in the nation's capital, spitting distance from all the congressmen and all the senators. And think about just the opportunities to host guys in your box. I mean, we all remember the pictures of Jack Kent Cooke with the politician of the week in his box at RFK Stadium. I mean, every week it was somebody new. Jack could pick up the phone and call anybody in DC and they take his call.
You know,
And
if we get it built quick enough, we can host World Cup games in 4 years.
no,
think those
because
have
they've
already
already
been
selected the
determined, right?
sites.
They're all selected and locked in.
They've already selected the sites, sadly.
Damn.
And so
Isn't the closest one to here is St. Louis, Missouri, if I'm not mistaken.
now Philadelphia,
Oh, Philly is hosting.
Philly and New York both are hosting. So
All
yeah.
right, fair enough.
All right. So speaking of World Cup, we got one game left. Are you on the Messi train or the Mbappe train, Mark?
Listen, I spent one of the best years of my life living in Buenos Aires. I've sort of lived and breathed Argentine soccer since I was 17 years old. I can't not root for them because I know what that would mean to that country. It's going to mean is just as much in France to I get that, but I'm emotionally tied to Argentina and Messi. So I'm going to, I don't know. It's kind of it's a toss-up game to me. I think France is probably deeper and a little bit more dangerous, but Messi's got some magic, so we'll see.
I'm kind of in the same boat. Granted, I've never been to Argentina, much less, lived a year of my life in Buenos Aires, but I have friends in Argentina more so than I do France, oddly enough. And a very big soft spot for Messi, who I feel like often gets the short end of the stick in the whole GOAT conversation vis-a-vis Cristiano Ronaldo, who I really kind of feel like has not exactly covered himself in glory over the last 2 weeks. And to have Messi just positively putting on a clinic at the moment. Don't get me wrong. I would be happy for France if they won. It would be the first time anybody repeated as World Cup champion since 1962.
Yep.
The Pele-led team of Brazil in 62 that also won it in 58. But I would just love to see Messi leave with the World Cup in his pocket. I think that would kind of put the cherry on top of an amazing career. So,
Well, speaking of amazing careers, I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to the great 8 Ovi. Hit 800 last night.
With a hat trick,
with a
no less.
hattie in
Yeah, that's
Chicago.
beautiful. That was
So-
beautiful.
nice. Yeah. See, look, people, we can talk more than just football here.
I could have a whole podcast just on that.
I don't doubt it. I see, and I can hardly spell hockey.
What's kind of fun is the next one ties Gordie Howe for number 2 on the all-time list. So
3 people have ever scored 800 goals in the National Hockey League. Ovechkin is one of those 3 people.
Yep.
At some point in time, Derek, I'm going to come home and we'll sit down and watch a hockey game together over beer, and you can explain what the fuck icing is, because
I got you, buddy. I got you. Trust me, I got you.
All right, man.
We can do it on here if you want to. I don't care. But no, I hope that people are paying attention to Ovechkin. We are witnessing greatness. He is the greatest goal scorer of all time. I don't think it's a debate at this point. And that includes Gretzky, because when Gretzky was playing, guess who was goaltending? It was me, you, It was the three of us in a rotation playing goaltender. It was a different world. Scoring is down, everything is down, and this guy is still doing what he's doing. He might be the greatest scorer to ever play professional hockey.
I'll tell you what, I won't argue with you, Gretzky, but I'll certainly put Ovi on Rushmore with him.
Right.
Are we
I'm not
living-
taking anything away from Gretzky. He's the greatest. He's the best hockey player that has ever touched the ice.
All right,
I'm just talking
I'm with you
scoring.
there.
Are we living in a great time to be sports fans or what? I mean, we've seen some amazing shit in our
We
lifetime.
got to
So
watch
this-
Brady's career in real time.
Yep.
We're still watching Brady's career in real time.
We got to watch Jordan, and then we got to watch another guy do Jordan. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah. Well, we could go on and on about the NBA. I mean, I fell in love with the NBA watching Johnson and Bird, right? And well, Jordan and the four guys you kind of just mentioned, because you didn't actually mention what's his face's name?
LeBron.
James.
You didn't mention LeBron James' name, but LeBron, Michael, Magic, and Bird, four very different games, and all brilliant at what they did.
Well, yeah. I mean, LeBron James is a defensive end. That
He is.
that can dunk. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Sorry, not to go off another tangent. We have found a way to go beyond an hour and almost to 90 minutes for no reason other than the fact that we just won't shut
It's
up.
in the fine print on when you sign up to do BGO podcasts, you agree to always go at least an hour or more. So,
Well, yeah, you get guys together that love sports, and this is what happens.
It's
Yeah,
easy to
usually.
talk.
Especially when you've got, it's really kind of a weird confluence in sports at the moment, because you normally don't have high level soccer that means something this time of year.
Yep.
You've got all the league games, but we're months away from end of season drama, right?
Yep.
It's mid-season for them, but at the moment, the biggest prize of all is in the offing, while we're coming up on the end of the NFL season. While you're watching Ovechkin set records in the NHL, it's just kind of amazing.
So next week we will gather to talk about the playoff implications of the Commanders' win over the Giants and to discuss the World Cup final. Be there.
Yep.
And if you're listening and you want to get online and talk some shit with some good football fans, jump on BGO and get on the BGO chat. We're there every game. Without a doubt, there's going to be a group of us. Some people might take their ball and go home, but at the same time, we're going to have fun while we do it.
Except for Mark, whose blood pressure can't take BGO chat.
You guys kill me in BGO chat. I can't do it. I have to
Alright,
pace when I'm watching the Commanders live. I have to pace. I can't sit. I have
Yeah.
to be up and moving. So
I have to. It calms me. It keeps me centered. Otherwise, I'd be throwing stuff through the windows.
yeah, no, I clean the fuck out of the kitchen and shit while during the game. I'll go out and fix the Christmas lights, in commercial breaks. I just can't sit still during the game. All right, gents.
It's been a pleasure, boys.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Appreciate you.